Red Bull team principal Christian Horner has refused to accept that George Russell offers a genuine threat to Red Bull, despite the Mercedes driver's thrilling battle with Max Verstappen at the Spanish Grand Prix. Fans went wild at the back and forth between the young F1 duo, which was made more interesting by the Dutchman's faulty DRS system. Wheel-to-wheel action between Verstappen and Russell was virtually impossible before this season. Last year, the former was fighting for the world title with Lewis Hamilton, while the latter was still loitering towards the back of the grid with Williams. But since stepping up to the Silver Arrows, Russell has looked the most likely driver to take the fight to Ferrari and Red Bull this year. And onlookers were treated to a rare battle on Sunday as Verstappen, who was attempting to fight back after an earlier spin, spent several laps trying to squeeze past Russell. But the Englishman stood firm and even unleashed some slick moves of his own when it looked as though the Red Bull star had got past. Eventually, strategy made the difference as Verstappen went on to win the Grand Prix, and Horner was not as amused as some. The battle was a bit one-armed because Max didn't have the full use of his DRS. Horner told the F1 Nation podcast. George was getting his elbows out at turn 1. It was good, hard racing, and I think this generation of really exciting races, and I think we've got many years to come. Verstappen had a roller coaster Sunday in Spain, growing irate over the team radio at his faulty DRS system. Charles Leclerc's engine failure helped him out a great deal, however, and the result has landed him with the Drivers' Championship lead before Monaco. Verstappen's triumph was also made possible by his Red Bull teammate Sergio Perez, who had to move out of the way under team orders. At the time, the Mexican labelled the decision very unfair, and after Horner hopped into the team radio to congratulate Checo on a solid drive, Perez replied demanding that they talk later. Horner subsequently addressed the team orders sent to the 32-year-old, which denied him the opportunity to fight for what could have been just his third race victory. While it was clearly a bitter pill to swallow at the time, the Red Bull boss claims that he came round quickly once the dust settled on an exciting contest. Asking him to hold back is always a bit tough, but Checo was on a 2-stop and Max on a 3, he added. We spoke about it in the briefing earlier that we might have to switch cars around because we don't want to lose time on either of their races. It made no sense, particularly when Max on a tyre that gave him a 2-second per lap advantage, to let the two drivers fight. At the point in time when he's leading the Grand Prix, he doesn't see the overall picture, but he understood it very quickly. And Red Bull advisor Helmut Marko offered an identical explanation for Perez's unhappiness and subsequent reasoning. It's the same story as Max in regards to his frustration with his DRS issue, Marko told the Dutch editor of motorsport.com. Perez didn't understand what was going on, but we were on two different strategies. Max was on a 3-stopper and Checo on a 2-stopper. He would never have made it on those tyres because Max was so much faster, so it was in the team's interest to play it that way. Not only because Max would take the lead in the World Championship, but also to secure the 1-2. And Christian Horner did shed some light on why there were issues with DRS for Max Verstappen. Horner has hinted Red Bull has been too ambitious with weight-cutting measures after Max Verstappen's experienced DRS troubles. Verstappen was unable to complete his final flying lap in qualifying on Saturday after the DRS failed to activate in a straight line, the lack of assistance leading the Dutchman to believe he was down on power. Despite believing a fix had been made in the build-up to the race, Verstappen continued to struggle with the rear wing flap, temperamentally failing to open before flicking open and shut. I think that it needs further analysis, said Horner when asked what had caused the problem. Of course, we're chasing every ounce of performance, and when weight is a factor as well, maybe we've been too ambitious there. But I think we need to understand exactly what the issue is, because we thought we had a fix, but unfortunately it didn't prove to be a reliable fix for the whole of the race. And the theory about Red Bull being too ambitious with the weight of the car was shared by Sky F1 broadcaster Ted Kravitz. What I thought was interesting was Christian Horner saying on the grid, "Well, we have been taking weight out of things," said Kravitz. Does he mean that they've been taking weight out of that DRS actuator and that then has led to it failing? If it did, that's not good. That's a salutary lesson. If that's just something they can fix quickly for Monaco, that's fine. But clearly, they have taken weight out of it and it's failed. That's a very bad thing, and the person who put put mass and weight into it in the first place said, "Aha, told you so, told you it had to be heavy." Red Bull had admitted at the start of the season their car was too heavy, and they were trying to shed kilos from it to ensure it was not above the maximum 798 kilograms. Verstappen has now won all 4 races in which he has reached the checkered flag this season, Charles Leclerc triumphing for Ferrari in the other 2. Horner has insisted Verstappen can be beaten despite the reigning F1 World Champion's incredible start to the year. The Dutchman took over the championship lead in Spain despite a slide into the gravel and his DRS issues to make the most of Charles Leclerc's DNF. Now he heads to this weekend's Monaco Grand Prix at the head of the title race. Other than his retirements in Bahrain and Australia, Verstappen has taken victory at every Grand Prix this season, as well as finishing first in the Imola Sprint. Given his 100% winning record when finishing, Horner was asked if his driver was unbeatable, to which he replied, "No, not at all, because the competitors are very strong, and I think we've had our moments, but every race we have won, bar this one, have been on the absolute limit. I think that Max is driving extremely well, Checo is doing a great job, but I expect it to be very tight competition throughout the season." Aside from the DRS issues affecting Max Verstappen in Spain, Red Bull advisor Helmut Marko has also revealed that they were close to suffering a race disaster before it had even got underway due to the temperature of the Red Bull fuel. Eventual winner Max Verstappen and runner-up Sergio Perez were reported to be only 8 seconds away from having to start in the pit lane because of the fuel in their RB18 cars was not at the right temperature. Teams are understood to try and keep the fuel temperature cooler than the stipulated minimum level for as long as possible before a race to aid performance. Then they increase the temperature at the necessary time to comply with the regulations. Aston Martin were reported to have got this practice wrong at the preceding Miami Grand Prix, with both their cars having to start from the pit lane as a result, and Red Bull were nearly caught out in Barcelona. Red Bull advisor Marko told F1 Insider, "We have overlooked the fact the temperature had been changed, but we noticed it in time and ran the engine to warm up the fuel." When he had been asked about the late arrival of the cars during an interview on the grid with Sky Germany, without mentioning the fuel, Marko said, "The high temperatures today required some last-minute adjustments." F1 Insider reported the rule was tweaked for the Spanish Grand Prix to state the fuel temperature must be a maximum of 10 degrees cooler than the ambient temperature 2 hours before the start of a race, i.e. Sunday, 35 degrees minus 10 and therefore 25 degrees. However, the report claims that since the switch to E10 fuel this season, the rule had been up to and including the Miami Grand Prix a standard minimum temperature of 18 degrees, and that Red Bull have only realised the change at Barcelona in the nick of time. Ferrari team principal Matteo Binotto had already expressed his opinion about what happened as he surged the FIA to keep tabs on what was happening in this area, given the Scuderia are in a World Championship fight against Red Bull. "I don't know what's going on there, of course," said Binotto, "but I can imagine it had something to do with petrol temperatures in the tank, which had been a maximum of 10 degrees below the ambient temperature. It should be at all times during the event, so not only when the car is going out, but when the car is in the garage itself. It's difficult to understand that they were maybe heating up the fuel through a fire-up because it would not explain. And as I said, it should be legal at all times. I can only trust the FIA." Attentions will now turn to the Formula One's flagship race, the Monaco Grand Prix.